Hey fam, welcome to another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly about real estate. I got a great guest for you today, my boy Big Mac. Woo! Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What's up, Big Mac?
What's up, bro? Thank you, man, for inviting me on here. This is sick.
Awesome, of course, man. I've been kind of holding off on you for a little bit. You know what I mean? I can't play all my cards at the beginning of my journey. I got to hold some of the bigger cards for later on in the game. You know what I mean?
Nice. Love it, man. That's cool.
So me and Mac known each other for almost a year now. We met in actually Squad Up, so it has been a year.
Yeah,
we both made the plunge in the Owners Club and gotten to know each other a lot better through that, and just making moves and increasing our ability to help others. So I usually start my episodes with getting you to introduce yourself to the audience. So go ahead, Big Mac. Tell everybody, who you are, what made you decide to get into real estate.
Okay, nice. I love it. So my name is Johnny Mack, and I'm located in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. I grew up in South Jersey. Like I always say, I know what a jug handle is. I say water. I know where Jimmy Hoffa's buried, and I don't pump my own gas. And if you're from,
you have to go right to go left. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. If you're from Jersey, you know all that stuff. It's like, yeah, we say whether we're going up or down, we're always going down to the shore. So
sure.
Yeah. So I grew up there till I was like 33, came over to PA. I'm like 40 minutes from Philly. So, but as far as like how I got into real estate, like a lot of people, I read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, in 2018. Okay. I think it was. I was working my full-time job, before I went full-time into real estate. Like a little over a year ago, I was a project manager for a large site contractor. So a lot of these warehouses you see, I was a project manager on those sites. But during that time, I was going to finish my bachelor's degree. I was doing an online at Lancaster Bible College, doing business management and biblical studies. And during the business management classes, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I got that book and I couldn't shake it. So from there, I just started to visualize and just kind of, how can I get into this? I searched like wholesaling and things like that. Couldn't really find a lot until I bumped into Pace, but that was a little forward in the timeline. But what I did was I did my first house hack. That's how I bought my first property. So like a house hack is when you buy a property that's like a small multi-unit and it offsets your mortgage payment. So that was in 2019. I got a 3-unit. It was a 3-in-1, a 1-in-1, which I rented out, and then a garage that I rented out. So my mortgage was $1,600, but my rental income was $1,000. So I'm literally paying $600 for a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, fully rehabbed. And it was during that time, I think my interest rate was like 3 or 4%.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's how I got into it. Now I'm cash flowing. I'm doing what Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about, having an asset, like it's putting money in my pocket. And then from there, I started to think, okay, now what do I do? So then I was looking for distressed property. Still had no clue about wholesale. Was listening to the bigger, I'm not even going to say it, but those other episodes.
Those other guys.
Those other guys. And then they talked about doing virtual wholesaling and this and that. And I'm like, how the heck do people do that? Like, I couldn't even imagine how to do a wholesale deal locally. So I found the property that was an add value. Now, this is interesting, and I love telling this story because I bought my first property with an FHA loan, which was like a 3% down payment, which right. I saved up. And then my second property, which was a distressed property, they had it listed for $225. It was on the market for 60 days. I talked them down to 215, but the killer part was I got a USDA loan. So now I got an FHA loan and then a USDA loan, which is a 0% in down loan. And I was able to do that even after my mortgage broker told me that I would not qualify for a USDA loan. And that was something that I learned. You put people in a box that they're an expert.
Right.
Don't always take no for an answer. Check it out for yourself. Because what I did, he said I made too much money. So I went online, and I have like 5 kids. I'm not there with like a Jerry Norton. I had 10. So I'm like half of a Jerry Norton. So now I'm like, I go back to my mortgage broker. Are you sure I make too much money? Because I have like 6 dependents. Well, actually, you do qualify. And I'm like, geez, bro, like if I would have just listened to you, like this would have been, I would have never had this. So I got that property. It's a USDA loan. I actually had my 3rd child, because I have 2 stepchildren. So my 3rd child, which was my 5th, during the time that I got the FHA loan. So to get another loan from the government, if your family increases, like all these things that I learned along the way. So I wrote a letter, got approved for a USDA loan. So now I have this property that's distressed. So I start rehabbing it on nights and weekends. Me and my wife, like she would literally, I'd come home and I'd have like a sandwich and I'd go over to the house and just fix it up. I did that for 10 months.
Wow.
But there was a point when we moved into this house. Now we have, it's like 4 bedrooms. I'm on like 3.6 acres. It's family. But the killer part is I did the add value and I turned a property that I paid $215 for, and now it's worth like closer to $400. And then that was in 2022. And then I'm like, okay, now what's next? And then I started looking at some different like wholesaling and stuff like that again. And then I ran into this driving for dollars challenge by Pace Morby. And I'm like, who the heck is Pace Morby? So I buy this 1995 driving for dollar challenge and I'm watching this. And then I start Googling and looking on like YouTube, this Pace Morby. And mind you, I'm thinking about wholesaling. How do I wholesale? Oh, you can join this course and spend 10 grand and we'll teach you how to wholesale. And then I go on YouTube and here's this Pace Morby guy with a 6-hour long video, like explaining it from A to Z for free. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Right. And he's freaking whiteboarding and stuff. So I think it was probably like a couple weeks after I paid the $20 for the driving for challenge that I jumped in and I was like, if he's giving this for free on YouTube, I can only imagine what is behind the door in his community. So in 2022, December 6th, I joined Sub 2. And a year ago, I left my W-2 and that's where I'm at, man. And that's like my progress of why or how I got into real estate, really. Yeah.
Most people, when they talk about investing, one of the biggest concerns they have is, I don't have any money, right?
Yeah.
How am I going to buy a house? If I'm broke, how can I invest into a house? Did you face those kind of issues, or did you just figure it out?
So back when I bought my first house, I did save up money because, I started to look at my budget and things like that. I started to cut costs and I did save up money. So I had a little bit of cushion doing it the conventional way. So I think I had to put like, $10,000 down on my first house. So I needed money, know. So but that didn't stop me because that's what I wanted to do. And because that bug was on me and I knew that I wanted to get into real estate. And that's the only way I knew how. If I knew, as Pace has his book, Wealth Without cash, if I knew those ninja moves, I would probably not have, who knows what I would have done. So yeah, but I don't worry or think about it anymore.
Right.
Like my mind has changed as yours is. Like the door has been opened. We understand that when a book is called Wealth Without Cash, it's the truth.
Right.
Even though we grow up and our parents or guardians say, "Oh, if it sounds too good to be true, it must be a scam," but it's
Right.
not. So
Yeah. I like the analogy of, Wendy and the Wizard of Oz when they pull back the curtain and see the wizard, right? That's basically what we've been able to do, being a part of this community, just peeking behind the curtain, actually seeing what can be done,
heck yeah, 100%.
So now that you've been investing in since what, 7 years now, what is your focus now?
So now, as you know, in Owners Club, we have our Mount Everest. I mean, I have my focus, my day-to-day focus is I focus on pre-foreclosures. I door knock locally here. I text, call pre-foreclosures in like Atlanta area, Dallas County, up in Chicago. So all over. I've done wholesale deals all down the East Coast, but that's like my focus for direct to sellers. So that's pretty much my day-to-day focus. And then for my Mount Everest, it's more, and I don't have any yet, but my Mount Everest is to own 50 sober living homes so I can generate $50,000 a month while helping thousands of people. Now, after we're still going through this Mount Everest, that is actually changing. But that's
Absolutely.
like my why that for me, I want to double down and focus on is sober living.
Gotcha. Is there, if this is too personal, please tell me, but is there a reason why you're focusing there?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'm open, man. So, when I was 18, I became an addict to some hard drugs, and I was never like a rip and tear, go to jail addict. Like I went to, college during that time. I worked, but that was always an addiction. And in 2012, I came to my end, if you will. And, I'm a man of faith, and God took that from me. So now, fast forward 12 plus years later, I have the bug of real estate, but I also have the testimony or the understanding of the destruction of addiction. But I also have what I call the hope to get free from that. Like I know it's possible. Like I was on hard drugs. Like it was bad. Like I was an addict. And now I can go to like Kensington in Philadelphia and sit down next to somebody who's shooting up drugs on the side of the street and say, "Hey, I know what it's like to be where you're at, but there is hope and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like you don't need to stay where you're at,
Right.
And in my mind, part of my Mount Everest is to, one, have these sober living houses. And I want to do big ones, man. I want to do you got to think big, right? I don't want to just have a single family house. I want to have like a place where there's 10, 20 rooms in it. People can come in, but then also there's an educational curriculum that shows them about real estate. Why real estate? I work with a lot of men specifically that were incarcerated for years. And people that struggle with drugs, they get off of drugs. Now you have this stigma that you're a drug addict or you're a criminal. And with real estate, once you realize that they don't care, it doesn't matter your background, the sky's the limit. Like if you didn't go to college, it doesn't matter. Like I always say to people that say, "Hey, how can I get into real estate investing?" I say, "Well, do you know 5th grade math? Because if you know 5th grade math, you're there."
Yeah.
And that's all it takes is that simple knowledge and the drive. And when you show somebody who had a drive to wake up in the morning, they have a problem. They need to get drugs and they have no money. But by the end of the day, 9 out of 10 times, I'd be high. And I'd figure it out. I'd find money and I'd go get my stuff and I'd be high. So now that drive, which was then destructive, can now be channeled to something positive, and then sharing that with people who think that their life's over because they went to jail, they've had a drug addiction. So was that too personal?
No. Some people like to share, some people don't. I had a guest earlier in my podcast journey who I had just met on my podcast, and he shared that he was incarcerated.
Yeah.
His name is Bill Brook, and I met him for the first time in Dallas when we caught up. And this guy, man, he came from nothing, and now he owns. He's got equity ownership in a construction company, an HVAC company. He owns 200 doors.
Wow.
So, I like sharing those type of stories that people are willing to share, because, a lot of people, hopefully, that are watching this channel don't realize that no matter where you come from, whether you're an immigrant and don't speak English, to coming from hard times or from nothing, that if you choose to make something better yourself, or choose real estate as a vehicle or a way of improving your situation, that it's possible if that's what you so choose, right? Yeah. A lot of people want to put barriers in front of them, and I just try to knock those barriers down. You can do this if you really want to do this, and I'm showing you people that are doing it just like you. They didn't have a rich uncle. They don't have a little fund over here that they got left from their grandma. These are people that are fighting and working, and because of their desire, their work ethic, they're making it happen. And hopefully it'll resonate with people that are watching this, and get more people involved and excited about doing real estate.
Heck yeah. To clarify, I did 5 days in lockdown. That's the most I've ever done. So never made it to population. What's that?
I still love you.
Yeah, that was in Camden County Jail, which is, beautiful city of Camden, New Jersey. And
there's nothing beautiful about Camden. If anybody knows, they know you're lying. Don't be going like that. Yeah,
I was 18, probably weighed 150 pounds, which, but still, I mean, I'm thankful that I didn't have to go down that route. But yeah, and it's all mindset stuff, man. Once you have that stigma, and then somebody gives you that key, like the guy you were talking about, somebody showed him that you don't have to live in your past. Like, you can make your own future. And you know what? Tell the people in your past, or tell the society that says that you're a criminal and all these labels, to go pound sand, because that's not who I am.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, in his case, it was a guard. A guard gave him the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Wow, bro. Yep. No way.
He threw the thing. He tells the whole story. Threw the book in the trash can. It's like, I ain't reading this crap, and threw it away. And then over, I don't know what the period of time was, but over a period of time, something was like weighing on him. He's like, let me go read this book.
Wow.
And when he got out,
chills, dude. Holy crap.
He started applying the principles in there. He got a mentor at a local RIA, and the rest is history. He tells a story about, he had to raise for his first deal, I think it was too, $750,000 for his first deal. And now, mind you, listen, I told you right about this guy, right? He was incarcerated. So how in the heck in the world people going to trust him money with that kind of background and lend him money? And no crap, he had 2 weeks to come up with his money, and he said, I made 76 phone calls, and he just kept making phone calls until he got to the number that he wanted. Again, his mentor helped him out, but I love his story. Every time I get a chance to share about it, because it is that, and it was that impactful to me, right? Anytime I started thinking about, I can't do this, or my life is hard, or this wall is too hard to get over, I started thinking about what he has been through and what he's overcome. And I'm like, you know what? My wall in front of me is not that big. So
Heck yeah, that's so good.
it seems like you got over the virtual wholesaling thing. You're saying you're doing up and down the East Coast there. So you figured that out, did you?
Yeah, that was another thing. Like, back when I was saying, hearing this, doing virtual wholesaling, I never thought that was or I didn't know the how or the who really. And then when I joined Sub 2, I was doing pre-foreclosure outreach. I had a property up in PA. They wanted to keep the house up in PA, but then they said, we have a house in North Carolina that we would sell. And me just joining Sub 2, I'm like, I buy houses in North Carolina, right? Sure, let's go. So that was like a Wednesday, it was a Thursday. I got on the community, and this is the power of who and the power of the community. I put a post out. Hey, who's in Elm City, North Carolina? You ever hear of Elm City? No, exactly. It's like in the boonies. Yeah. So who's in Elm City? And this one Sub 2 member, Ralph, he's like, hey, I'm not too far from there. I can help you. Okay, Ralph. We get on a Zoom like at 9:00 at night. I have no clue. I'm like, Ralph, here's the numbers. This is what they want, blah, blah, blah. You think if I lock it up at this number, we can sell it? Yeah, we can sell it. Okay. Like, say less. I go there Friday. I get them to sign the contract. They give me a freaking big wad of keys. I kid you not. It was like a ring with like all these keys. And I take that to FedEx. I throw it in a FedEx envelope and I ship it to Ralph. Ralph goes there. He walks the property, takes pictures. We post it up on, I don't know if it was Investor List. I think we just did the Facebook thing. Sure. We had a buyer, then we lost a buyer, and it was an up and down roller coaster. We ended up bringing in another Sub 2 community member, Eve, and she brought the buyer. And the wholesale assignment was $10,000, and we split it amongst the three of us. So now I made like whatever it was. Maybe it wasn't the three of us, but I made $37.50. However, to me, that was like making $1 million because I did an out-of-state wholesale deal. And it was like, how do you do it? And I just did it. And I'm like, holy crap. So that, like, talk about pulling that Wizard of Oz curtain back. I was like, wow. So from there, I had the confidence, if you will, to be able to do it and know that with the community, and I'm not like a poster boy for the community, but it's just a reality. Bro, you're in Colorado, right?
Yep.
If I got a deal down the street from your house, I could just call you up and we could JV together and get a deal done like that. So yes. So the wholesale out of state, Sub 2, man, I give it the credit, definitely the community and the who. So
just for the audience, who versus how, it's a philosophy that I kind of heard before, but it really hit home this past Squad Up Summit. We had Dean Graziasi on stage, and basically is instead of focusing on how to get something done, you focus on the who's doing what you're trying to get done, and leverage that relationship or leverage that knowledge and have them help you get whatever it is that you're trying to get done. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to do it all alone. This is a team sport. So if you know somebody that you know who's doing it already, reach out to them and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. How would you do it? Or can you help me do this? Because especially in our community, everyone's always willing to help each other out. And Big Mac is a huge, huge heart. He helps everybody out. So whether it be running Zooms or, getting on a private Zoom and helping people, like he helped me with Easy Button, which is our AI tool. And so there's no shortage of help and like brotherly love, I guess, to put it in the community. So before I get into our good and bad and ugly, I want to make sure I throw this out there because it kind of caught me off guard at Squad Up Summit. So you are working, at least I think you are, with Doran Levy on a project that's close to you that we're trying to do for like a Sub 2 community. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Doran Levy, he didn't he win like the Sub 2 community member of the year at Squad Up?
Something like that. I know he won some award.
Yeah, so he's like high level, like he's been doing stuff way before sub two. He does like ground up construction, but he's doing a development in our area because he's outside of Philly too. And I said to him, like, Duran, because when I came, like I said, from my W-2, I was a project manager. So I
Right.
was always working as a site contractor, working with GCs, working with developers on that side of the table. I'm like, Duran, if you need help, man, let me know, And he took me up on it, and I started to just help with the project, help by venting out the site contractors, like looking at it from my perspective and my expertise, which is the horizontal. Now, Duran, he's an expert at all of it, but now I can kind of be there and just kind of help. And then as a project manager, like my motto was three things, like protect the budget, protect the schedule, and then protect against piss buckets. And what's a piss bucket? That's when a job like went upside down and you got to take that bucket of crap and give it to the COO or like your supervisor. So now I can add value to Duran, but my value that I'm getting from him is just being a part of that development. Because when I said earlier about I want to do big things, I mean, like, what's bigger than developing, a property from the ground up? And then also Duran, in the way that he loves the sub two community, he's literally naming the cul-de-sac Pace's Way or Pace Way. So he's got me as the site the site project manager. And then there's another sub two student in South Jersey, Alex. He's got him helping too. So like he's saying, like, literally, this is like the sub two community property, like project. So yeah. And here's an exciting thing. I think he already has like commitments for the first couple houses.
Oh wow.
And we didn't even put a shovel in the ground. Like it's yeah.
That is awesome.
Which is awesome. Yeah. So, and then he's working on other stuff too. But Duran is like, Duran's cool, and I give him a shout out. Like he's like very high level, kind of like the pace mindset. Like he's very high level, but yet he'll reach down and help somebody to kind of pull them up and kind of encourage them to push and be the better self, I guess they're trying to be, or to fulfill their visions and dreams. Yeah. So, yep.
So we're at that point of the episode where I'd like to ask you, what is a good story you had, and then maybe a not so good story in your journey that people may be able to learn from, so they don't make the same mistake potentially.
Yeah. I think one of the good stories was doing my first out-of-state wholesale deal, but I'll piggyback on that. So one of my second or third out-of-state wholesale deals was in St. Augustine, Florida, and the lady, I had just texted her that day on our team. She had applied for a loan modification, and she got the letter that day that she was denied, and her auction was 2 weeks later. Yeah. So I call her, we talk to her, and I think my wife actually locked this one up. But at that time, I was working with 4 people, my wife and then 2 other sub 2 students, and they had never done a deal yet since being in sub 2. I did the one that I mentioned earlier. And then what we did was we reached out to a sub 2 student who was in the same area, St. Augustine, Donna Marty, who helped us to be the boots on the ground. And she became the 5th in the split that we ended up closing on that deal. We ended up and we sold it to a sub 2 student who actually daisy chained it, and she made 10 grand on it. And I forgot about that. So now you got 6 people, because the person who we were originally selling it to, she's an OG in sub 2. So she just found another buyer. So technically there's 6 people from sub 2 getting paid out on this deal. R5 made $31,500 as a whole. So me and my wife, we made $12,500, I think. And then the 3 other sub 2 students, they got their first wholesale deal. And then of course, and I just realized this, the 6th sub-2 student who bought it and then sold it to somebody else, she got 10 grand on it. So yeah, that was a killer deal. And another one of those like keys to open up the mindset. Like they're out there. Yeah. Yep.
Did she wholetail that, or did she double close it for the
She
winner?
double closed it because I wasn't sure, and then she didn't disclose it, which is fine. I kind of realized it at the end, but yeah. But it doesn't matter. Like I don't like usually people don't care. I mean, if you got your set number, who cares if somebody else makes money? So, yep.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about that. I was curious to know because some people in their contracts have no daisy chaining. So I was trying to see how she may have gotten around that stipulation.
I think she eventually said it that she's just going to assign it. So at that point, it's like, okay, we're already kind of down the lane, you know.
Sure.
So we just kept going. So
win doesn't matter, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good story. Bad story. I don't like to say that I fail. It's more of a learning experience. So
they're all learning experience, no matter how expensive they are.
Exactly. But if you want to deem it as bad, I mean, when I went full time last year, one of my first doors that I locked up, I think I knocked like 250 doors. It was a vacant. I'm walking in like Sam's Club on a Sunday, and I remember this vaguely or vividly because my kids are walking with me. And then I get a phone call, and it says like sticky note or something, and it was a vacant property. It was like a probate type of thing, and there was a sister involved. Long story short, we got the deal under contract, and instead of wholesaling it, I ended up keeping it, and I partnered with another sub-2 student locally here. And the things that we missed was the location, because it kind of was on a hill, and it made it less appealing. So that kind of caused the end price to fall down. Sure. Another thing is we ended up putting an HVAC system in it because I forget what it's called, but like there was a boiler that heated the water, and I thought that was like not efficient, but it's actually a common.
That's kind of water.
I know. So you're in the summer, in order to get hot water, you got to have a boiler that's running. Yeah. But it's a common thing up here, but I didn't know that. We took the thing out, and we put all HVAC, and we're like, yeah, we just up this property's value, and we didn't manage our contractors. There was gray areas. Long story short, we lost 50 grand. And between two of us, that's 25 each.
Sure.
Which was a big hit. We had a realtor that was not in sub-2. She quit after about 30 days because we weren't taking these low offers. She did great with showing the place, but she like got frustrated. It seemed like it seemed like she was frustrated that we weren't taking offers. And then we got a local sub-2 student, Nicole, who she came in, she took over the listing. She told us a couple things to change, and then she helped us. We did take a less offer, but it worked out, and we got it done, you know, and we got because we got a private money lender on that for like $300,000. So the private money lender got their money back. They got their interest. I think she charged like 11%. So because that's important when it's wealth without cash, but a lot of times it's other people's cash. So it's always important to take care of your lenders and make sure they get whole, you know? So I'll take a hit any day as long as my private money lenders don't have to absorb that. Like they get made whole, you know? So that was a bad story, but it was still a good story in the end for our private money lender.
Yeah.
And it's a learning lesson.
That is a big lesson to learn too, because I didn't, in Jersey, I didn't know they have oil drums, right? Or used to in the old days. And so I had bought a property in Willsboro because he's you're from Jersey, you know where that's at.
Yeah.
And I didn't know there was a buried drum there.
Oh
When
man.
my mentor told me about it, and that's what got me out of the deal because not only did it had a buried drum, but there was bad termites as well.
Mm.
And as far as the radiant heat, I learned that I had that same problem. Property up in Minnesota, I had radiant heat there, and my contractor told me that the system was leaking and they couldn't seal the system, so they pulled it all out and come to find out that the system was functional. I actually had the HVAC company provide me the invoice where they showed system checked just fine.
Oh man.
So that
Yeah.
was an expense that I didn't need to pay.
Yeah, that hurts. Yep.
So I feel you on that, my friend.
But it's a learning lesson, and I'm still friends with the sub 2 student that we did that deal together, and he's doing great. I mean, and I'm still going forward too. So we're still alive, man, and we got that war story to talk about.
There you go. If you don't have a war story, then you're not trying hard enough. That's the way I look at it.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
So you share what you're doing. You're trying to help people with foreclosures, and you're doing virtual wholesaling, and you're trying to find properties so you can start your sober living communities. So what is it? Somebody who's watching this episode, what can they bring to you, or how can they partner with you to bring you value, or maybe take advantage of your experience and partner with you on deals?
Yeah, so we do dispo. That's the quick and dirty way. So if you got a deal anywhere in the United States, you can reach out. We can help you dispo your deal. The other way is Pace put out the cheat code, which one of them is the Orbit cheat code, and we just started that up probably about a week ago. And what is that? That's when people actually come onto our team and they just get we provide the leads, we provide the systems, the CRMs, and they get an inside look at an operation. But the most important thing is they get reps, and then they also get almost training one-on-one, because we're constantly like, just, okay, you said this, but stick to the outline, stick to the script, stuff like that, and just helping people get deals. My one friend, Patty, she speaks Spanish. She almost had a deal locked up in Chicago for like 50 grand yesterday. But the gentleman's like, well, I talked to because he only spoke Spanish, right? So she like immediately went to and was working on it. And she, the guy ended up talking to his sons, and then his son's probably going to give the money, but she's going to follow up. And then another one, she just had like a double hitter. There was a guy who had an auction today. We stopped the auction, but this is a cool thing. Like, he's like, listen, stop the auction. I'm a contractor. I'll pay for the rehab, and then you, after talking to him, can sell it. And I'm like, let's go, And so I literally got a purchase sale agreement yesterday. And then today we stopped the auction, and now I got a JV agreement that I sent with him, and we're going to do that. But the point of me saying that is I need help, and value is follow-up. And like Betty, which we call her Patty because that's her middle name, but she goes by, followed up and made it happen. So Orbit cheat code, reach out to me on Instagram, say you're interested, and we can, get some action on there. So I think that's pretty much it. And follow me on Instagram and YouTube. I try to be real. I don't sugarcoat stuff, and I share my ups and my downs, because, as you know, Jose, it's not all like unicorns and butterflies. Like it's a grind.
No way. You spend your $10 on a real estate course and you make millions of dollars, right? That's how it works.
Yeah. I saw that quote the other day. We give up a 40-hour-a-week job to work 90 hours a week. Yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, man. Yeah. But like you said, I try to help people as much as I can, because when I first joined Sub 2, there were specific people that helped me in my journey. So now I sincerely mean that when I say to people, especially in the community and outside the community, it's like, if you need help, you get stuck, you're taking action, reach out and I will definitely help. And if I can't help you personally, I will connect you to somebody who can, so.
And like I said earlier, I can attest to that. He helped me with trying to work on my outreach with getting constant posting in my social media. He helped me with time blocking for trying to work on my active income per week. So when I say this guy helps you, I mean this guy helps you. And I know some stuff, but it never hurts to get somebody else's perspective or somebody else's way of doing things, because sometimes you can learn something that's better than what you're doing, or maybe take a little bit of what they're doing, add it to what you're doing, and have a process that works great.
Heck yeah.
So, and for the audience, don't worry about it. I'll have his socials, all his links in the description of the episode. So if you didn't get a chance to write all that down, what he said, don't have to worry about it. As much as I'd love for you to watch this 2 or 3 times, I'll help you out and get you in touch with him. And just so you know, this episode will be on Spotify. So if you don't like watching it on YouTube, watch it on Spotify. I'm on both platforms, and eventually we'll get on Apple as soon as I talk to my wife.
Nice.
So, Big Mac, Big John, thank you so much for giving me your time today and sharing your story and what you got going on. And looking forward to seeing you in Monterey, my friend. And
let's go.
Hanging out and doing some more and bigger things.
Yep. Thank you, Jose, for inviting me. And I appreciate you taking the time to just, do this, man. It's awesome.
For sure.
Let's go.
Let's go. And for the audience, we'll see you on the next episode. There we go. I can't see the stupid camera. Later, all.